everyone, welcome back to another video. So in this video, as you can tell by the title, I am going to be talking about my whole experience in the nursing program. This has definitely been a very long-awaited video, and I'm finally doing it for you guys today, so I'm very excited about that. So I hope you are excited as well, and I want to thank you so much for your patience if you have been waiting for this video for quite some time. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about my experience in the nursing program, and not only that, I'm going to be talking about before getting into the nursing program, my experience, what kind of made me want to be a nurse, going through the nursing program, after the program, graduating and getting a job, and yeah, along with talking about my experience through the whole thing. I'm also going to be answering some of your guys' questions. I went onto my Instagram story. If you do not follow me on Instagram, it's just my name, Brooke Strain. You can also find it down in the description box down below. But anyways, I went on my story and I had you guys ask me any questions that you may had about nursing, my experiences, any specific questions that you guys had for me. I'm going to be answering those questions in this video as well. So I have a lot to talk about. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a long video, so I'm just going to get right on into it. So if you would like to hear about my experience in the nursing program, then just keep on watching. So of course, first I'm going to be talking about my experience before I actually got into the nursing program. So I thought I would just start this video out explaining why I wanted, or when I first wanted to become a nurse and kind of why and things like that. So I first decided that I wanted to become a nurse when I was 13 or 14 years old, and I made that decision because unfortunately a family member of mine ended up in the hospital for, I'm pretty sure, like a couple weeks. And of course I would go to the hospital and visit my family member quite often, and I just found myself so fascinated with my family members' nurses, like everything that they were doing, how they were caring for my family member. Just anytime they came in the room, I was just constantly watching them in awe. I feel like that sounds like really creepy, but like, yeah, I was just so interested in every single thing they were doing and saying, and I just wanted to learn more. The best way I can describe it is like a light bulb went off in my head, and like it just dawned on me, like, oh my gosh, like I think this is what I want to do. Like I think I want to be a nurse, or I at least want to know more about it. So that's kind of the first time that I decided I wanted to be a nurse. So yeah, this was the summer before my freshman year in high school that all this happened, and I first decided, or was really seriously thinking about, becoming a nurse. So fast forward a couple of years, at my high school, they offered a program, and it was called KCTC, which stands for Kent Career Technical Center, I'm pretty sure, and it's basically just like a program, or like a technical program that they offer to high school students that you can go for half the day, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the afternoon. You can go for half the day on a school day and learn various trades. I think they had, like, you know, architecture, construction, like mechanical work on cars, and they also had a healthcare program, and this program was offered to juniors and seniors. So when I was a junior, I decided to take advantage of this program, and I would go half the day in the afternoon, so I would have a few of my like normal high school classes in the morning at my high school, and then I just took like a bus or a shuttle to like where like my tech center classes were, and that's how I finished up the second half of my school day. And I did that both for my junior and my senior year, which was a great experience. I had awesome instructors, and we got like real hands-on work with patients, and I was actually able to get my certificate as a nurse aide. And they also did offer training for phlebotomy, which I did do the training for phlebotomy, but I did that when I was 17, and I couldn't become like licensed or certified as a phlebotomist because at least in the state of Michigan, I'm pretty sure you have to be at least 18 years old, and I took the phlebotomy training in my junior year and I was only 17, so I couldn't get certified in phlebotomy, but I did get hands-on training. We were able to practice on each other and draw blood, which was really awesome. So yeah, that is some of the first experiences that I got in like the more nursing world, or I guess more the healthcare world, which was awesome. If you're interested in healthcare, and really interested in anything, and wherever you may be living or going to school, if they offer some sort of program like this, I would definitely take advantage of it, because I definitely learned a lot, and I was able, like I said, I was able to get, you know, like hands-on experience with actual patients and all that sort of stuff. So it was definitely a great experience, and going through those 2 years in that program, that really kept my interest in working in healthcare, becoming a nurse. So after I finished those 2 years, I graduated high school and I went right to college, and that was my goal. I was going to go to school for nursing and get my degree in that. So that's kind of my experience before getting into the nursing program, like what first made me want to become a nurse. So yeah, after I graduated high school, like I said, after the summer, I attended college right away. And the first college that I attended was my local community college, which I did apply for their nursing program. I knew I was not going to just stop at community college because I'm pretty sure this is the same anywhere, wherever you may live, but community colleges only offer like 2-year degrees or associate degrees, and I knew I for sure wanted to get my bachelor's of science in nursing, so I knew I was going to eventually transfer to a university to get my bachelor's degree. But as many of you probably know, community college is way cheaper than going to like another college or a university. So that's why I first decided to go to community college. And like I said, they did have a nursing program, which I did apply for, which I didn't end up attending. I eventually down the road, I did get accepted into it, but my particular community college nursing program was not competitive, so it was basically like a first come first serve. Like they just put your name on a list. Of course you have to go through some application processes and like take a test, but yeah, the waiting list to get into the nursing program was like 5 years. So like I was kind of not very confident that I was gonna be attending or be accepted into my community college's nursing program, but I wasn't really too worried about it at the time because, like I said, I just graduated high school. This was my first time going to college, and I knew for sure that I needed to get a bunch of like general classes. That's pretty much the same for any type of degree you get. You always have to take those like general basic classes. So I ended up staying at my community college for 1 year, and I just took a bunch of like general like science, math, English type classes. I won't really get into the specific reasons why I left my community college. I guess I could just basically say I didn't really get along with, not really my professors. My professors were fine, but like my advisors and counselors, I kind of clashed with them, I guess is the best way I could describe it, and I was just kind of fed up with how they were treating me, and they were just saying really awful things to me, really discouraging things to me. Like they told me that I would never become a nurse, and just things like that. Like I just found myself, whenever I would meet with my advisor or like other counselors or anything like that, I would literally walk out of their office crying, which, I mean, for me that doesn't really say a lot because I'm a huge crybaby. Like you yell at me once, I'm more than likely gonna cry. But like, yeah, it was just like a reoccurring thing. Like they just treated me awful. I really started to hate my community college. I did have, after my first year, I did have more like general classes that I needed to take, but because I just wasn't a fan of that community college anymore, I decided to transfer to the university that I actually ended up graduating from. I didn't end up graduating from the community college. I didn't get any sort of degree. I basically just stayed there for a year to get some general classes. Eventually, I did get a letter from them saying that like, oh, congratulations, you got accepted into our nursing program, but I was already at the university that I knew I wanted to stay at, and I knew I wanted to attend their nursing program and get my degree at this specific college, so I didn't end up going back to my community college, and I didn't end up attending their nursing program. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all of like the more background information. Before I get into my experience at my university and trying to get into their nursing program, I do have a few questions that I want to answer real quick. So one question is from Emily's Nail Artisting. I hope I'm saying that right. Did you start to work with nurse stuff when you were 18 years old? If how, because people say you have to be 18. I kind of touched on this a little bit, specifically as it pertained to phlebotomy. I could not get licensed or certified in phlebotomy and go through the training for that because you had to be 18 years old. And like I said, I took that course when I was 17. Pertaining to phlebotomy, I had to be 18, so I couldn't do that. But I mean, like I said, this is also going to be different probably on what state you're living in or even country. But like I said, I was able to get certified in a nurse aid. Oh wait, I was 18 when I took that. But I was 18 when I got certified as a nurse aide, but you do not have to be 18 to become certified, because like some of my classmates that took the nurse aid training the year before, when like they were 16, 17 years old, they were able to get certified in it. That's really all I know of. If I had to guess, nowadays I still don't think you have to be 18 years old to become a nurse aide, and that's really the only way I can answer that question. I didn't actually get a job when I was 17, 18 years old in healthcare, so I can't really answer anything more to that question. But yeah, I kind of hope that makes sense and kind of somewhat answers your question. All right, so the next couple questions are both from Mackie_Mac345. The first question she asks is, what was your inspiration for nursing? I did kind of cover that already when my family member ended up in the hospital, and I was just so fascinated with his nurses and things like that, so I did kind of already talk about that. The second question she asked is nursing what you first wanted to go into? Asking since I'm a medical assistant. That's so cool. I'm actually a medical assistant myself, or at least have a degree and a certification in that. But as far as was nursing the first thing I wanted to go into, definitely not. Like I said, I first decided I wanted to go into nursing when I was like 13, 14 years old. Obviously, when I was like really young, I had like the same dream as like every other, you know, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. Like I wanted to be an actress and a rock star. But like as I got even older than that, I wanted to be a tattoo artist. I wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I think those are the three that like come to mind that I was like really serious about being. But yeah, once I hit 13, 14 years old and I had that experience with my family member, and I was really starting to think about becoming a nurse, I haven't swayed from that. So I've wanted to be a nurse since I was 13, 14 years old, which was like 10 years ago, which is so insane. So now I'm going to go ahead and get into my experience trying to get into the nursing program. So now at this point, I'm at the university, and right when I got accepted into the university and I started attending classes, I started right away on the process of getting into their nursing program. Now, one thing that is different from the community college I was going to and the university I am now going to is the university nursing program is competitive, while the community college I was going to, their nursing program was not competitive. Just to kind of explain that a little bit more, once again, at the community college, it was a first come, first serve basis. You finish your application, your test, and you're put on the list, and that's it. You can't like work your way up. Let's say you get a better grade on the test compared to this person. If this person finished their application before you did, they're gonna be higher on the list. So that's more of a non-competitive program, while the university, this was a competitive program, so it wasn't like a first come first serve basis. If you get your application in there and you get a really great grade on your test, then you're more likely going to get into the nursing program faster than someone that didn't get their application in time and didn't get as good of a score on their test. So it's been a little while, obviously, since I had to go through the whole application process of getting into the program, but I'm pretty sure everything that I had to do is I had to write an essay. I think it was mainly pertaining to like why I wanted to become a nurse and why I wanted to attend their specific nursing program, something like that. So I had to write an essay. I had to do my own application, basically with all my own like personal information. I also needed to get 2 letters of recommendation, which I did get my recommendations from my instructors from the technical health program, the KCTC program that I attended in high school. So I got my 2 letters of recommendation. And then I think that was all like the paperwork side of it. And then I also needed to take a test. At my university, they called it a TEAS test. At the community college I was going to, they called it a HESI test, which they're basically the same thing, but they may have different names even depending where like you're going to school or where you're living. But that test basically has a bunch of like basic information, like science related things. I think they also had some like math and just other subjects. They basically just want you to take that test and get a specific score on it, just so they can see that like you're competent, I guess, in a way. Now, at the community college I was going to, because it was non-competitive, they just required that you get a score of at least, I think it was like 75%, something like that. And then at the university I was going to, because it's competitive, I was told by one of our advisors that you should shoot for like an 80%, somewhere around there. So yeah, so trying to get into the nursing program at my university, the TEAS test was my biggest struggle, because I ended up, fast forward a little bit, I ended up taking that test, I think 3 times. And the first 2 times I took it, I just did not get the best grades on it. And I think I blame that on not studying correctly. Eventually I found out that there was a specific book on the TEAS test that you could study from, which I did get a hold of that book, and I used it for studying for the 3rd time I took the test, and I ended up getting like an 80-something% the 3rd time I took it, and then eventually got into the nursing program. So I definitely recommend, no matter, even if you're not going to nursing, but any sort of program you're going into, and if you have to take a test before you get into their program, I definitely recommend study for it and ask questions, whether advisors, counselors, friends, other classmates that may have took it. If there is like a specific book or a website or practice questions you can use that will really help you on the test. Because like I said, I was not aware that there was a specific book to study from. I mean, I was actually told there isn't a book to study from, and the first 2 times I took that test, I did not do good on it. But yes, once I got my hands on that book, it made a world of a difference. I ended up passing and getting into my nursing program after that 3rd time. So definitely don't mess around with that test. Just spend the time studying for it, study the right things. And like I said, there's more to the process. Like I had to do my whole like application and essay and sort of things, but at my specific university, I was told that the main determination if you get into the nursing program is on your test score. So I would not stress about, let's take, for example, the essay. Don't stress about, writing it perfectly and things like that, because, the score on your test, that may be, the main determination. Obviously, it's important. Complete your whole application, because if you don't, then yeah, you're not going to get into the program that you're trying to get into. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. So yeah, like I said, it took me 3 times that I had to take that test 3 times. So it took me a few times to do the whole application process to get into my university's nursing program. So I was still going to this school, finishing up my general classes, and then while I was waiting to get into the nursing program, I went with getting my associate's degree in medical assisting, which I did complete that, and it was kind of great timing, because right after I finished getting my associate's in medical assisting, that was in the earlier months of 2016, I ended up getting accepted into the nursing program. So it was great timing. I finished my associate's degree, and by the time the fall semester of 2016 rolled around, I was able to start my nursing classes. So the specific month that I found out that I got accepted into my university's nursing program was in February of 2016, and I will never forget that day. It's kind of funny now thinking about it, but I actually found out when we were in the car. I was with my mom, and we were coming back from urgent care because I ended up getting pink eye, and it was really bad. I want to say it was the worst pink eye I've ever had in my life. My whole eye obviously was completely red. Like, you couldn't see one speck of like the white part of my eye. Like, it was just so red, and it was so swollen. Like, I could hardly see out of it, and it was like starting to like swell shut. Like, it was awful. So yeah, my mom ended up taking me to urgent care, and yeah, I ended up getting drops for it, but I had a more of a viral infection of pink eye, which I honestly didn't even know you could get, which meant I had to take the rest of the week off of work, because if you guys know, with viruses, you can't treat viruses. They just have to go away on their own. He did give me drops just to see if they would help. They didn't end up helping, so that just proved that I had a viral infection of pink eye. But anyways, yeah, that's why it makes me laugh thinking about that, and that's why I remember this time so specifically. So yeah, we went to urgent care and we were driving back home and my phone went off saying I had an email. I opened it up and it was an email saying, congratulations, you made it into the nursing program. Yeah, I was so happy, so excited. I probably would have cried, but like my eye was so like screwed up, I couldn't even cry out of it. Like it was hilarious. It really was. So yeah, that all happened in February. So through the summer, I was working as a medical assistant. So I finished the summer working. That was also in August, me and my fiance took a trip to Disney World. And then the next month in September, that is when I first started my first round of nursing classes in my nursing program. And before I get talking about my experience in the actual nursing program, I have one question kind of pertaining to before I got into the nursing program, and this question was from Blue Star Andrea, and she asks, how many credit hours do you have to take of starter classes before your program classes? Oh shoot, I was totally gonna look this up before this video to answer this question specifically, but I cannot think off the top of my head of the exact credit hours I needed, but I'm pretty sure, picturing the calendar, it projected that you would need to take, I believe, 2 years or 4 semesters of like more general classes that you would need, not necessarily before you get into the nursing program, but before you start your nursing classes, because I've met quite a few people that they got accepted into the nursing program right away, but they had to take all of their general classes first before they could take nursing classes, if that makes any sense. So yes, I'm almost positive. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact amount of credit hours, which thankfully, because I went to my community college first and because it took me so long to get into the nursing program, once I got accepted, I was able to go right into nursing classes because I've already taken 2-3 years of college classes and I got all of my general classes out of the way. So yeah, now I'm gonna get into talking about my actual experience in the nursing program. So yeah, like I said, I found out I got accepted in February 2016 and I started my first round of nursing classes in September of 2016. And I was so excited on my first day waking up, knowing that I was going to go to school and start taking my nursing related classes. I was so happy, so excited, and it just felt good because I finally felt like I was on the right path in my life. It was such a bumpy road, you know, dealing with all the crap that I dealt with at my community college and taking the TEAS test a few times, and I just kept getting like poor scores on it, and it just took me so long to get through the nursing program. Like, it just felt like a big roller coaster ride with a lot of laughs, a lot of tears, a lot of question marks. I just didn't really know if I was ever going to get into the nursing program, and I was contemplating switching my degree because for a second there, I really thought that maybe this is a sign that nursing isn't for me. So yeah, I definitely felt like I was finally on the right track. I was finally starting to do something with my life. So yeah, at the beginning, like I said, I was very excited, but after I finished my first semester of nursing school, that excitement that I felt at the beginning quickly turned to dread. After completing that first semester, it just felt like I got hit by a train. Like, I was like, whoa, like, what the heck is this? And I'll be completely honest with you guys, I hated nursing school, and I was at the point where I didn't want to be a nurse anymore, that this was not for me. I no longer had a passion for it, and I don't know why I found nursing school, at least that first semester, I found it so difficult, and I found it so overwhelming, and I was honestly confused because, like I said, I went through that KCTC program for 2 years in high school, and I've wanted to be a nurse since I was 13 years old. Like, I was just so confused why nursing school just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was also really confused because, like, my instructors told me in my KCTC program that I took in high school, like, they were just so positive about it, and they were just like, oh, don't worry about it, like, you're gonna get into the nursing program right away, and you're gonna love it, you're gonna do it, you're gonna graduate, no problem. Like, they were just so positive about it, and I just quickly learned like they were completely wrong, because like I already explained to you guys, I did not get into the nursing program right away. That was hard as hell. And I did eventually get into the nursing program, but it was, I got good grades, but it was a struggle. I didn't enjoy it. Like, it was not a breeze for me. Like, it was just so not what I was expecting. And I don't even know how else to describe it other than that. So yeah, that was kind of my feelings after the first semester of nursing school. And really I want to say my first year or two in the nursing program, this was my lowest point, because I worked so hard. It was a lot trying to get into the program. When I finally got in, I was so happy. But I quickly found out like this was not something I enjoyed. I didn't have a passion for it anymore. I hated getting up and going to school. I hated going to clinicals. I hated doing my homework. Like, anything to deal with nursing school, I was done with. And I would say this is a really low point for me, because I worked so hard to get into the nursing program. And not only did I work so hard, but my parents did everything they could. They did everything for me so I could go to school and I didn't have to worry about a thing. They even told me like I didn't have to work. I didn't have to pay for anything pertaining to school, because they wanted me, because they knew this was something I wanted, so they wanted to do everything they could to put me through school. And this was something, when I got into the program, I really thought I was on the right path in life. So now, because I didn't have a passion for it anymore and I absolutely hated it, and I wanted nothing more than to just drop out or switch my major or do something, or even just drop out and go back to work as a medical assistant, it was really hard for me, because I felt like I wasn't only letting myself down, but I also felt extremely guilty that I didn't make my parents do this, but because obviously they offered and they wanted to do this for me, but I also wasn't saying like, oh no, it's fine, I'll pay for school. So I felt guilty that they spent all this money for me to go to school. And I wasn't really driving at the time, so my mom was taking me back and forth to my classes pretty much every day. I felt really guilty that I didn't want to do this anymore, and I just didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to disappoint them. So yeah, I just felt extreme guilt. I felt embarrassed. I felt like a failure. And because I felt so guilty, it took me a very long time to go up to my mom and tell her. At this point, I was for sure, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be a nurse. I don't want this. Like, I just started to have those feelings like this just isn't for me. And I actually never told my dad that I was feeling this way, just because I knew a majority of the money that was being paid for my schooling was coming from him. And we've always done okay, but I would definitely consider my family more on the poor side. So yeah, that's why a majority of the guilt was because of that, because I knew we didn't have a lot of money, and there was most semesters, more than some semesters, my parents were wondering like, we don't have the money to pay for tuition, but I guess we're gonna figure it out. So that was really stressful every time, my bills for school came around, because my parents were like, well, how are we gonna pay for this? And he was so proud of me, and like, I could never, ever bring myself to tell him. And another big reason why I could never bring myself to tell my dad is because he was the one person that inspired me to become a nurse. Like I explained in the beginning of this video, when I first decided I wanted to become a nurse when I was a young teenager, because of a family member that ended up in the hospital. That family member was my dad. Without getting into too much information, my dad was an alcoholic for most of his life. And in 2009, his alcoholism landed him in the hospital. And that's also why, I was there visiting him all the time, because that's my dad, and like, he almost died. Even though like that was an awful, scary time in my life, in the rest of my family's life, I truly think that God put me in that situation to inspire me to become a nurse, So that's why I've always contributed my inspiration for going into nursing, not only God, but my dad. Because I mean, it's like awful to say, but like if my dad wasn't in that situation, who knows if I would have ever, you know, sparked an interest in nursing and pursued it as a career. And so like telling my dad that, you know, he was so happy about it, and he was always there to, you know, cheer me on along the way, and he was just so proud that I chose such a great career that pays pretty well. And also to quick mention, from this experience, my dad did become, you know, sober. He basically, I mean, he was in the hospital, he was safe, so he was withdrawing from alcohol safely, but he quit alcohol like that, which I am so incredibly proud of him for. And I'm also proud that he did that, because that gave us almost 10 more years with him before he actually died last year. Which also brings me to another fact. If you guys didn't know, last August in 2018, my dad passed away from colon cancer, and this was at like the end of August, which was a couple of weeks before I started my final year in nursing program. And I want to say that was definitely the next lowest point, because obviously my dad was the one reason that I went into nursing school, and it was heartbreaking when he passed away. And it just dawned on me, like, he's not going to be here to see me graduate. And it sucked, because it's like, and I bargained with God. I know this wasn't going to change the situation, but I just kept praying to God. I was like, please let him be healthy for a few more months. Like, I just wanted my dad to be at my graduation and to see me graduate. So yeah, that was really hard to go back to nursing school my final year without my dad being here. This was not supposed to be an emotional video. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, anyways, so going back to the lowest point in the nursing school, I did eventually tell my mom that I wasn't feeling nursing anymore. I also told my fiance and my sister. I'm pretty sure those were the only 3 people I told. I'm pretty sure I told my fiance first, and then I told my sister, and then I told my mom. And surprisingly, I was more surprised by my mom's reaction. They all had the same reaction, but I was more surprised by my mom reacting this way. But each of them, they were completely supportive of me. They basically told me, like, you know what, Brooke, like, it's okay. Like, if this isn't what you want to do, like, we're not gonna be disappointed in you. Like, and even like my fiance told me, like, oh God, I love him so much. But he told me, he was like, babe, like, I don't even care if you end up working at McDonald's. Like, if you're happy working at McDonald's, and if you love your job working at McDonald's, then do that. Like, we don't want you to do something or work in a place where you're not happy. And yeah, they basically all had the same reaction, which it felt good. I didn't want any pity. I didn't want any like pats on the back, but it was just such a rough time for me. I just didn't want them to be upset at me or be disappointed in me. So that was great. But the one thing that my mom said, she told me, she was like, if you're not happy, that's okay. I want you to be happy, but I need you to do one thing for me. She also mentioned, like, she's not making me pay for school. She's not making me work. I'm living at home, you know, rent free. So she told me, like, don't worry about anything. I just want you to do this one thing for me. I want you to stay in nursing school, and I want you to graduate. Which at the time was very hard for me to hear. I was like, I don't want to finish nursing school. Like, I just want to drop out. But she said that was her only condition. She would take care of everything else in my life, so I didn't have to worry about a thing. But she said she would do that if I finished nursing school. So even though I was a little upset by that, that's not something I wanted to hear. But I told her, I was like, fine, I'll finish nursing school because you want me to. So I never ended up dropping out, ended up failing or anything like that. I stayed in nursing school. I did my homework. I studied. I took my tests. I got good grades. But yes, the first year or two in the program, I had the same feelings. Like, I knew nursing wasn't for me. And now looking back on it, now that I've graduated, I think a lot of that was, the overwhelming load of nursing school. If you've been through nursing school, you know it is a tough program. And I even read in a book, I'm pretty sure, and I think it's the Guinness Book of World Records, the hardest degree to get, out of all of the degrees out there, the hardest degree to get is the degree I got, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So I think that was one of the reasons why I was feeling this way, because nursing school, it is not a piece of cake. It is hard. And if you don't work hard, study hard, you're more than likely not gonna make it. I mean, I don't wanna like sound harsh, and I don't wanna like, you know, push anyone away from going into nursing, because I had it really easy, because like I said, I didn't work. The only thing I really had to worry about and the only thing I really had to focus on was school. But don't get me wrong, I had people in my class that had children, that were married, they had a family, they had a house, they worked jobs, and they did it just fine, and they ended up graduating with us. So I don't want you guys to think like, oh, like if I have a family or if I have a job, like I'm not gonna make it in nursing school. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, but I'm also not gonna tell you guys it's easy and you'll be fine, because you probably won't be fine. And that's just the reality of it. You just need to stay motivated, and you just need to think positive, and you need to just tell yourself, I can do this. And that kind of gets me into my other point. I think the other reason why I was feeling this way is because I had zero confidence in myself. Every time we worked on a new skill, every time we went to clinicals, and just all the things that come with being a nurse, I had no confidence in myself. And I told myself on a daily basis, like, I am not good at this, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. So you definitely need to work on yourself. Tell yourself positive things, work on caring for yourself, basically. And I think that also comes along with that. And the main reason why I stayed in nursing school was my family. I would definitely say, to make it through nursing school, the one thing that you definitely need is a good support system. And that's exactly what I had. My family was absolutely amazing, which I kind of already touched on. They all knew that I was not feeling nursing, but they didn't yell at me. They were there for me, and they were like, I'm so sorry you feel this way, but if you're not happy, that's totally fine. And they told me all the time that you are smart enough, you can do this, you will be an excellent nurse. And not only did I get that from my family, but the relationship between like our classmates and our instructors, because we were all together for those like 3-4 years, however long we were all in the program together, we all cheered each other on. Our instructors cheered us on. We cheered other classmates on. And all of those different support systems, having all of those really made a world of a difference. And it eventually, towards the end of nursing school, it really did get me thinking, like, you know what? I'm almost done with nursing school. So that must mean I am smart enough. I can do this. You know what? Maybe I am starting to think more like a nurse now that I'm getting farther and farther in the program, and we're graduating in a few months, because I've had all these experiences. Even though I'm still a baby nurse, I definitely don't know it all. I would still say to this day, like, I don't know a majority of things, just because I don't have that experience. And that's also another thing with nursing. Yeah, you go through nursing school, but like, what's really going to make the difference is once you graduate and get a job and you start building like real life experiences and you experience it for yourself. That's what's really going to make a difference and really make you become a nurse. But yeah, as I went through the program, my feelings started to change. I started to think more positively about myself. I started to slowly, and don't get me wrong, even today, I'm not quite there. I still have those days where I'm just like, oh God, like, now I'm graduated, like, I don't think I'm ready to be a nurse. Like, I don't think I'm thinking like a nurse just yet. I still have those days, but I'm slowly still working on myself. And even back then, I slowly started to think more positively about myself. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers a majority of my experience in the nursing program. Before we get into my experiences more on like graduating and after the nursing program, I do have a few questions pertaining to my experience in the nursing program. So the first question I have is from Allie Bird 21, and she asks, what was the biggest obstacle that you had to face while being in the nursing program? I feel like I pretty much touched on this through everything I talked about. Obviously, I would say probably number one was my own mindset and having zero confidence in myself. I would say that was the biggest obstacle, which I overcame with the help of my family, my classmates, my instructors, and just working on my own mindset and just doing good in school and just taking advantage of, you know, in clinicals, for example, taking advantage of just anything just to start building up my experiences. And like I said, even though I've graduated, I still have a long way to go. I still want to and need to experience so much more as working as an actual nurse. But that's kind of how I kind of overcame that biggest obstacle of mine, which was my negative thinking and my zero confidence in myself. Next question is from Cassie_lol, and she asks, do you think someone could handle nursing school with a full-time job? Also, a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult was it? I kind of already touched on this as well. I went to school with a bunch of people that, for example, they had families, they had a house of their own, they had their own bills, you know, they were working, so it's definitely doable. In reality, it might be more difficult for you, but like I said, if you stay motivated and if you have that support system around you to help you, you could definitely do it. And I will admit, I had it very easy. I'm very thankful for it, but because I didn't have a job, I didn't live on my own, I didn't have to pay any of my bills, and even for school, my family took care of majority of it. I'm super grateful for that, and I had it very easy, but I definitely want to let you guys know you don't have to have the same lifestyle as me to go to nursing school and do a good job. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult was it? I want to say 100. But you can do it. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. All right, the next question is from Dark Ascension, and they ask, was your school strict on piercings, hair color, and tattoos? I don't want to necessarily say the word strict. Like, there was definitely some girls that, you know, they had their ears pierced, and they had like a little stud in their nose, which wasn't a huge deal. But I also wouldn't say they were strict, because I feel like they had the basic rules as any other school. So like, if you do have tattoos, just make sure they're covered. Like, you could even have a tattoo like on your arm. Just wear a long sleeve shirt under your scrubs and you're good. I'm pretty sure we weren't allowed to have any like crazy colored hair. I can't really remember that because there wasn't really anyone, I never had crazy colored hair, and there wasn't really anyone else in my class that had weird colored hair. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't allowed, but we just didn't run into that. So I didn't really think about that. And then, yeah, piercings, as long as like you don't have like big hoops in your nose or anything like that. If you just had like a little stud in your nose, they were fine with that. So I feel like it was just basic rules. I wouldn't necessarily call them strict. The next question is from Blue Star Andrea, and she asked, how many credit hours or clinical hours are required in your nursing program? And I was also going to look this up too. I am so sorry I don't have the exact numbers for you. The clinical hours varied on semester, like depending what clinical we were in. Just give a few examples. For our very last semester, we had a clinical in a class called leadership, and we needed, I think, 135 hours of clinicals for that. There were other clinicals, I think we needed like 90 hours for some and 180 hours probably for our med-surg clinical. So those are just some examples. I apologize, I can't give like specific times for like all the different clinicals we had. And as far as credit hours, I cannot think off the top of my head how many credit hours are in the nursing program, but like I said, like the first year or two is like dedicated to like those general classes, and then I'm pretty sure you have, or maybe it's like 1 year for those general classes, and then the next 3 years are nursing related classes, which we covered fundamentals, mental health, med-surg, health assessment, pediatrics and OB, leadership and community. Those, I think I got them all. I might be missing 1 or 2. But that's just kind of how our nursing program was set up. So I kind of hope, I apologize again, I don't have specific numbers, but I hope that kind of answers your question. The last question for this section is from Audra B, 21, and she asks, do you think being a CNA/LNA helps make nursing school easier because you know basics? I definitely would say it would definitely help if you do have some of that hands-on experience, either working or for me, for example, doing that program while I was in high school and getting those hands-on experience with actual patients. I think it would definitely help because you already, like you said, know the basics working in healthcare and caring for patients, and especially if you're working as like a nurse aide or a nurse tech in a hospital, I would say you definitely get way more experience in that sense. But yeah, I definitely think any sort of experience as a CNA or as an LNA or nurse tech or whatever you else may call them will definitely help you, at least in the beginning as you're going over those fundamental things. So yeah, now I'm going to move on to actually graduating the nursing school, or my nursing program. So we graduated at the end of April of 2019, so April of this year, and it was one of the best moments in my life. It was a huge relief. Like I said, at this point, I was starting to work on my own thinking, my own confidence in my own self. I was starting to realize, like, you know what? I got into this nursing program. I did it. I graduated. So maybe I do have what it takes to be a nurse. So it was an awesome time. It was a huge relief that I actually did it. And I was so incredibly proud of myself. All right, the next question I'm going to answer is more related to me graduating nursing school. So that question is from Jacobson.Sarah, and she says, "You're a badass. Good for you. Congrats on your degree." Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right, now I'm going to kind of get into my experience after graduating and preparing for and taking the NCLEX. So just because you graduate nursing school doesn't mean it stops there, and I'm pretty sure that's almost the same for other degrees as well, but you do have to take a specific licensure exam, so you are licensed to practice nursing legally in your state. So the specific test that you need to take related to nursing is called the NCLEX. Now the NCLEX, it's a tricky, unique test. So for the NCLEX, you have a minimum of 75 questions, and there is a maximum of 265 questions. So to kind of explain this test to you guys, not every single NCLEX test is the same. I would probably go as far to say that every single test is completely different. So you really don't really know what you're gonna get. The only things that are really similar is every single person will get a minimum of 75 questions. So no matter what, you will get 75 questions. But other than that, you really don't know how many questions you're going to get. Your test could shut off at 75 questions, or it could shut off at 265 questions, and you could take every single question possible. So it really depends. You don't know what you're gonna get. And kind of what that depends on, it can depend on how you're doing on the test. So if the first thing while you're taking it, you're basically taking it on a very, very smart computer software. So the entire time you're taking the NCLEX, the computer is documenting and deciding how you're doing. So for example, if you are doing really good, and there's like, it's so hard to explain to people, so I apologize. I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can, but just try to think of it like a graph. So on this graph, you have a line right here, and this is just kind of like the base line. And let's say you're doing really good on the test, and the computer is like plotting points, and every question you get right, it's going up. So you're going up, 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 up. You're above that line, and let's just say you're far enough above that baseline where the computer already decides, all right, this person's good. They passed their test, and the computer can decide after you've answered your 75th question, it shuts off right there, because the computer decided that within those 75 questions, those minimum questions that every single person will have, the computer decides that you have passed, you're above that line, so you don't really need to answer any more questions. Or it could go the complete opposite way, and let's say you're doing really bad on the test, and the computer is just dotting like all those questions you got wrong, and you're way below the line. After your 75th question, the computer's like, all right, like they're not doing good, so I've already decided from these 75 questions this person has answered, they have not passed their exam. And then let's say you're like kind of getting some wrong, you're getting some right, so you're kind of teetering around that line, then it really just depends on that computer's judgment, and it'll give you more and more questions after you've passed that 75 question line. Now, one advice I can give you guys right here is I would not focus on the number of questions you're getting. Just because one person gets 75 questions, it doesn't mean they passed. It also doesn't mean they failed. And just because one person gets 265 questions, that doesn't necessarily mean they passed, and that doesn't necessarily mean they failed. So it really completely depends. So many people get so stuck on the number of questions they get, and they think after they've answered the 75th question and goes on to number 76, they completely lose it, and their mind just starts running rampant, and they're like, oh my god, like I went on to 76, like I'm failing, I'm not doing good. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I don't think like that. And that's exactly what I did on my NCLEX. I did not pay attention to what number I was on. I mean, obviously I was looking because I wanted to know like what number of question that it shut off on. So I was looking for that matter, but I was not focusing on like, oh my God, I'm on number 74 or something like that. So yeah, don't worry about the number or which question you're on. Just do your best. Focus on what the question's asking you and take it that way. And yeah, I think that's where I'll stop explaining the NCLEX. I mean, we could go into even more detail with like basic questions and advanced questions and like the amount of basic questions and advanced questions you get and which ones you get like right or wrong. Like we could go into so much more detail, but I feel like I'm just gonna stop right there. I feel like I explained the basics of the NCLEX and kind of how it's run. Also, like even though it's based on a computer and the computer is like primarily grading it, once you finish your test, just to double check, a actual human will grade your test, which I really liked because like I'm very thankful for technology. It's made our world amazing. It's made everything very easy, quick, and simple, but sometimes, you know, technology is not 100% perfect. Sometimes it can mess up. So I do like how after the computer grades your test, a human will go in afterwards and grade your test as well to see if the computer got it right or computer got it wrong. So for taking the NCLEX, for me personally, I gave myself about a month to study for this exam. So I graduated on April 28th, and then I took my NCLEX on May 28th, I'm pretty sure. So like pretty much exactly a month. And I pretty much spent my time studying, making flashcards, making concept maps, taking a bunch of practice tests and doing a bunch of practice questions. I also did sign up for a preparation course, which was a good amount of money. I ended up spending like $300 to $400 on it. But I decided I wanted to spend the money and take the time to take that course because I wanted to really take advantage of all of the options that were available to me. And I basically just kind of asked myself, like, if this course was standing in between me failing my NCLEX or passing my NCLEX, then I just want to go ahead and take it, take advantage of it, and then that'll just increase my chances of passing my NCLEX on my first try. So yeah, that's kind of how I prepared for my NCLEX, and I did make like a full, like after my graduation, I pretty much spent that week. I didn't go hardcore into studying, so I would say I like hardcore studied for like 3-ish weeks. But yeah, like right after I graduated, that's when I started on making a schedule for myself, a study schedule. So I knew specifically what I was gonna work on and specific subjects I was going to study on specific days. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a specific study style because we all learn differently and we all remember things differently. So I would just say whatever works for you, then I would do that. But I definitely recommend study in a variety of different ways. So like I said, I took advantage of that preparation course. I took advantage of flashcards, concept maps, and then a ton of practice questions and practice tests. I guess out of all of those, the one that I would for sure tell you guys to do is take practice tests. Make sure they're like actual like NCLEX style questions because NCLEX questions can be quite difficult. If you don't really know what the question is asking you or like how to answer the question, it's going to be quite difficult. So I would definitely get familiar with NCLEX specific questions, how they're worded, and basically just get yourself familiar with like what the question is asking and what kind of answer it's looking for. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, out of all of those, I would definitely recommend taking advantage of practice tests. And I think I did practice tests or worked on some practice questions almost every single day. So that's something I would also recommend for you guys as well. But yeah, whatever study style works for you, then do that. And then also what I was trying to get to is definitely make a study schedule for yourself and stick to it. I wouldn't just like wake up one morning and just be like, I wonder what I'm gonna study today. I wouldn't do that because I feel like if you end up doing that, then you're just not gonna end up studying, or you're gonna look at all of your notes and all of the subjects that you want to study in front of you, and then you're just gonna get so overwhelmed and so stressed, and then that's just gonna mess with your mindset. But you definitely want to be in a good, positive, calm mindset going into this exam. So yeah, definitely making a study schedule and sticking to that study schedule is definitely going to help with that, test anxiety and you won't feel as overwhelmed or as stressed when it comes to the studying portion. So yeah, that's kind of how I prepared for my NCLEX. So yeah, I took it May 28th. I took it in the morning, I believe at 8 a.m. And for my particular NCLEX, I can't get into specifics because, you know, you can't talk about those sort of things. But I wouldn't say my test was very hard. It was iffy to me. I didn't really know how I was doing. So I guess the best way to describe it, the actual questions I didn't find very hard. I feel like I would read the question, I like already answered the question in my head. So I didn't find the questions hard, but I did have a ton of select all that apply questions. So if you guys aren't familiar, select all that apply questions are basically multiple choice questions, but you could, well, I guess on the NCLEX, they changed the rules recently. On select all that apply questions, you could have anywhere from one answer being correct or 4 or 5 answers being correct, just depending on what the choices are, which I absolutely hate those questions, and those were my downfall in nursing school. I mean, you definitely get a lot of practice with select all that apply questions in nursing school, but I've never been good at them. So yeah, that's definitely how I would describe my exam. The questions weren't very hard, but I had a ton of select all that apply questions. I would say that at least half, and honestly maybe even more than half of the questions on my NCLEX were select all that apply, which was very nerve-wracking. But the best way that I got through taking my exam is I kind of already touched on, I didn't focus on what number question I was on. And I also didn't really focus on the type of question, whether it was a select all that apply, whether it was just a regular multiple choice, whether it was like a more like fill in the blank or like a math question where you just type in the answer yourself. I didn't focus on those type of questions. Obviously, I read the question fully, because if it was a select all that apply question, then that tells me like, okay, there could be more than one correct answer in this question. So like obviously I read the whole question, but like my thoughts on like the specific question didn't drag on. So like when I saw select all that apply, I didn't automatically be like, oh my god, this is a select all that apply, I'm not gonna know this, I'm not good at this. I didn't do that. I just read the question, and if I noticed it was a select all that applied, I'm like, okay, there could be more than one answer, and then I just went straight back to the question and focused on what is this question asking me. So yeah, I feel like that's what really helped me during the exam. Keep yourself in a positive, calm mindset. Don't stress out. Don't freak out. Don't worry about what the person next to you, how their exam is going, what number of question on. Don't worry about the people that got into the testing room after you and are leaving before you. Like, just don't focus on any of that. Just focus on the question, what it's asking you, and definitely trust your gut. I feel like that's something we all kind of struggle with, not necessarily just in nursing school or in nursing, but anything in school. I feel like we've all been there where we don't really trust our answer, so we end up changing our answer, but then we find out later that the original answer we thought it was correct. Yeah, that's something I definitely have always struggled with in school, just because I've always been the type of person where I just never had great confidence in myself, and I've never trusted myself that I was smart enough and that I knew the subject, whatever we were focusing on in school, including in nursing school. So that's something that I really worked on along with my studying for this exam. Yeah, I'm pretty sure on my NCLEX, once I picked an answer, I didn't change it. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Of course, I did run into some questions where I'm like, oh crap, like what is the answer? Like, I'm in between two. You're definitely gonna find that a lot in nursing school. A lot of nursing and NCLEX related questions. There's usually like 2 answers or even multiple answers that are correct, but which one is most correct, which is awful, but you really just have to trust yourself and trust your gut and choose the answer that first comes to mind, because most of the time, I think they say like 90-something% of the time, your first instinct or your gut instinct of what the answer is usually the correct answer. So definitely staying calm and trusting in yourself, and just tell yourself it'll be okay. At the end of the day, it's just a test and you can retake it. You're not gonna die. Your arm isn't gonna fall off. The world isn't gonna end if you failed it. Just know it'll be okay. So yeah, that's kind of how I studied and prepared myself mentally for the NCLEX. And so yeah, I went in, I took my NCLEX. It shut off for me after 75 questions, so I got the very minimum amount. Leaving the NCLEX, I was not sure how I felt about it, just because, like I said, the questions I didn't find very hard, but I had a lot to select all that apply. And a lot of people say that if the questions you're getting on the NCLEX are easy, like really easy questions, that usually means you're failing. And then if you're getting like a lot of select all that apply questions, or questions that are like really hard and you're just like looking at it like, what the hell is this? That usually means you're doing good, because that's just kind of going back to like the computer testing your knowledge, and going back to that like graph I was telling you guys about with that baseline right there. If the computer sees that you're doing poorly, it's going to give you easier questions, basically to give you a chance to get those basic questions right. So that's why they usually say if you're getting easy questions, that means you're probably failing. And then if the computer sees that you're doing really good, it's going to keep giving you harder and harder questions, and harder types of questions, like select all that apply, just to see like, you know, you're already doing good on those the more basic questions. Let's keep giving you more and more advanced questions since you're already doing good. So that's why they usually say if you're getting a ton of select all that apply, or you're getting really hard questions that you've never seen before, or you have no idea what the answer is, that usually means that you're passing. Obviously that's not 100% correct. That's just some of these trends that people have noticed throughout the years. So yeah, that's why walking out of my exam and then you know, finding out it shut off after 75 questions, I really didn't know how to think of it, because yeah, I was having easy questions, so that made me think like, okay, I'm failing. And then I had a ton of select all that apply, so that made me think I was passing. So I had no idea what to think. At this point, I was kind of just happy that it was over and I could kind of relax a little bit, but of course I still had a huge question mark in my head, wondering if I passed or if I failed. And that kind of brings me to my last point that I definitely want to mention for my experience studying and taking the NCLEX and finding out if I passed or failed. I definitely recommend waiting until you can find out your official results, or even your unofficial results. I'm assuming it's going to be similar for most places, but they say your official results are like getting your actual license in the mail or through email, and then your unofficial result is usually something that you can pay for. I've heard people finding that they were able to find out their quick unofficial results the same day. For me and for a lot of other people, we were able to find out our quick unofficial results 48 hours after our exam. So yeah, I feel like even finding out your unofficial results, I would definitely wait for those unofficial results, because something that I did right after my exam is I did a little trick. I had one other person tell me this trick, and basically what this trick is if you go on, again, I don't know if this is going to be similar everywhere, but what I heard is if you go onto the testing website wherever you took your NCLEX at, if you go on your website, go under your account, and if you try to register for another NCLEX exam, and if it lets you register for another exam, that usually means you failed. But then if it doesn't let you register for another exam, like if you get some sort of error message, or it just says like you can't register again to take that exam, then that usually means you passed. Because obviously, like if you pass the exam, why would they let you pay and register to take the exam again, if that makes any sense? I've only heard this from one other person. Obviously, again, this isn't 100%, but this is a trick that this person told me about, and she said that she did it, and a few other people that like she went to school with did it, and it ended up being correct for her and those other people. And it's basically just a trick that you can do to find out if you pass like immediately after you take the exam. That way you don't have to wait those 48 hours and pay the fee to find out your unofficial results. So I ended up doing this shortly after I took my exam, like I want to say like 15-ish minutes after I took my exam. I went onto my testing website, went under my account, and I went to register for the exam again, and it let me, meaning that I failed my NCLEX, and it was heartbreaking. I immediately started crying. I spent the rest of the day bawling my eyes out. I was so heartbroken, and I was honestly pissed. I wish I would have never done that. And like, I just tried to keep telling myself, like, one, that isn't 100%, so don't get so worked up over, you know, this little trick. But I also told myself, even if I did fail, again, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. That just means I'll just have to take it again. So yeah, I was so upset. I spent the rest of the day crying my eyes out. I eventually calmed myself down, and then I spent, you know, the rest of the night just, you know, doing some things around the house, packing, because the day after I took my NCLEX, we went to Colorado, which I did vlog our trip. That was in my May vlog, I'm pretty sure. So if you haven't seen that vlog already, I can link that down in the description box if you want to see, you know, some clips from our Colorado vacation. So yeah, we went on vacation. I was fine. I just kind of accepted at this point that I failed my exam. And then, yeah, 48 hours later, I was able to find out my quick unofficial results. That did require a fee that you had to pay to find out those results, but I think it was only like $7.50, so I went ahead and paid it. And I was totally expecting to see a fail, but when I paid that fee and, you know, the page was like loading, of course it's loading forever, so I was just like losing my mind, but once the page finally loaded, it said that I passed, and I lost it. I started crying because, like I told you guys, I already told myself at this point that I failed. So to see that pass, well, first of all, I spent like 10 minutes looking at it because I was like, this has to be wrong. Like this, I failed. Like I already told myself I failed. Like there's no way I passed. Like I just couldn't believe it, and I started crying, and it was like the happiest moment. It was like the perfect surprise. So yeah, then I ended up getting my, I guess, official results, or I ended up getting my license through email, I think like a week or two after, maybe even a week and a half after. And yeah, so now I am officially licensed to practice as a nurse in the state of Michigan, which is awesome. I really don't have to worry about, you know, taking any more nursing related classes or nursing related tests, which is a huge relief. So yeah, I kind of just want to end this section of this video on my final tips for, you know, basically overall going through nursing school and taking the NCLEX. I just recommend that you guys obviously study hard and stay on a study schedule. Hold yourself accountable to that schedule, but also just stay calm, try to breathe, try not to stress yourself out. And along with that, definitely take the time for yourself. Like if you just want to spend some time, put your notes away and just watch one of your favorite TV shows or your favorite movie, or go for a walk, take a nap, whatever it is that you like to do, that you like to spend your me time doing, definitely take advantage of that. After you take the exam, try to be patient for those quick results or those unofficial results. And then even if you don't have access to those unofficial results, just try to stay calm, waiting for your official results, finding out if you passed or failed, and just tell yourself no matter what the results are, it's gonna be okay, it's not the end of the world. And finally, if this is something that you're going through currently or you want to be going through in the future, just tell yourself that you can do it, you are smart enough, you are capable of doing this. Like if I was able to go through nursing school, pass all my classes, graduate, take the NCLEX with only 75 questions. Like if I can do all of that, you definitely can. All right, now we are on our final section of this video. I'll try to just whip through it real fast because I feel like this video has already been super long. If you guys are still watching this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up for me. But the final thing that I want to touch on for this video is my experience after the NCLEX and getting my first nursing job. So yeah, like I told you guys, I took the NCLEX on May 28th, and then May 29th we left for our Colorado vacation, which we spent about a week in Colorado. And then after we got back home, I pretty much took a few weeks off. You know, I was still doing like YouTube, and I was doing other things around the house. Like if you guys have been watching my like decluttering and organization videos, I've been spending a lot of my time doing that because through nursing school, I've just been so incredibly busy. So I haven't had time to do a lot of those decluttering things that I've been wanting to do for months, even years. So yeah, I just took the time for myself and I just did what I wanted to do. So a lot of decluttering and organizing, YouTube things, and really just taking time to just relax and finally do and spend my days what I wanted to do. At this point, I mean, I'm very hard on myself, and I'm someone that I love to relax, I love to do nothing, but once I get those moments where I can relax and I don't have anything going on, I get really stressed and really guilty that I'm not like spending my time more productively. So, I mean, it was nice, and I'm glad now thinking about it that I did take those few weeks off, but I did feel really guilty that I wasn't looking for a job because obviously everyone that I was running into, family, friends, people I didn't even know, of course were asking me like, oh, how's the job hunting going? Do you have a job yet? Do you have a job yet? Do you have a job yet? And I'm just sitting here like, nope. So like I did feel really guilty. I just felt like no one was saying this to me, but just the way I was thinking, just because I was just getting hounded by people asking me how the job hunting was going and if I had a job yet and why I didn't have a job yet. I just felt like everyone was looking at me like I was just like a bum, not doing anything with my life. So yeah, I definitely felt guilty, but I just kept trying to tell myself, like, I went through nursing school. Like, I mean, if anyone's been through nursing school, like, you know, that's a good enough excuse. Like, okay, yeah, take the time to relax. So I just kept telling myself that I just went through nursing school. I haven't had a break like this in forever. So yeah, that's how I spent, I would say, like, a good month, including that time we were on vacation in Colorado. I spent a good month just taking it off and spending my time how I wanted to spend it. So around the beginning of July of this year, I applied for my first nursing position, which was at a mental hospital. And let me just say, when I was going through nursing school and when I graduated nursing school, I didn't have a passion for one specific type of nursing in one specific field. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. So when it came to applying for jobs, I spent a lot of time searching and trying to decide like what positions, what facilities I wanted to apply at, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Like there was really nothing that was popping out to me or something that I felt really passionate about. So yeah, like I said, I applied for my first nursing position at a mental hospital. I decided to settle on that facility. I decided to apply at that facility because I've always had a fascination and I've always had an interest in mental health. I just feel like all the different mental disorders that are out there, I just find them very interesting. And I also find mental health really relevant, especially nowadays, because I feel like so many people nowadays are way more open about talking about their mental health. And I truly believe that every single person on this planet has some sort of mental disorder. And when I say disorder, I don't mean it disrespectfully in any way, but yeah, I definitely think like we all have some sort of mental issues going on. So I just really felt really interested in this position, and I just felt drawn to it. I found myself not being able to stop thinking about it. Like I just really wanted to go for it, and I felt really positive about it. So I basically just took that as a sign like, okay, this is where I need to apply. So yes, in the beginning of July, that is where I applied to. And yeah, basically the whole process of it was pretty quick and pretty basic and pretty easy, I must say. So I applied for, I don't remember specific dates, but I kind of remember like days. I applied on a Monday, and then the next day on a Tuesday, I got an email to set up my phone interview with them. So that was Tuesday, and then we set up the phone interview for the next day, which was Wednesday. So I had my phone interview. That went really well. During my phone interview, before we got off the phone, we set up my in-person interview, which was the next Monday. So a week after I applied for the position, I had my in-person interview, and then I was offered the job the next day, which was a Tuesday. So yes, I do have a job as a nurse. This is my first nursing job, which is like really exciting and a little nervous, obviously, because it's new. You know, I just feel like a lot of people get confused. Like they think like I went through nursing school and I like know everything, and I'm like a nurse now and I have all the answers, but that's really not the case. Like obviously you learn a lot in nursing school, but kind of like I said earlier in this video, a lot of your experience and a lot of your knowledge and how you know how to do things and think like a nurse and critical thinking and all that sort of stuff that goes into nursing, you really don't learn it until like after you graduated and you start working as a nurse. And I just want to throw that out there. That is like my biggest pet peeve, is like when people like come up to me and they'll like ask me a question about something, and they like want me to like diagnose them right there, and they're just like, oh, like I have this on my arm and like I have this going on and that going on, like what could it be? And I'm just like, I don't know. And like, if I truly don't know, because I'm a baby nurse, like cut me some slack. And then they always come back with the same response. They always say, but aren't you a nurse? And like, I think with one of my family members, like I finally got like fed up with having all these questions being asked at me, and I'm just like, you guys, like I don't know, like I understand I went through nursing school and I am a nurse now, but I'm not God. Like I don't have all the answers. Like I just feel like, you know, maybe along the way I will be able to answer their questions, but like right now, like I'm like a baby nurse. Like I don't really know that much. So like I just get so annoyed when people like ask me questions, and if I don't know the answer, if I don't give them the answer they want to hear, they're just like, but aren't you a nurse? Ugh, I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sure a lot of nurses out there, whether they're new or they've been a nurse for a while, but they can, you know, think back to when they were a new nurse, can definitely relate to me. So anyways, getting back on track. So yeah, the whole process from the time that I applied for the position and then got accepted the position, it was 8 days. So yeah, it was pretty basic. There's really nothing I want to add more to it. It was, you know, a pretty basic process, pretty quick and easy. And where I'm at currently, I've went through a lot of my like orientation in-class trainings. I have one more class that I need to take, but that's scheduled for the end of August. I'm not exactly sure when this video is going to be uploaded. Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at as I'm filming this right now. I have one more in-class training at the end of August, and then I should be starting some of my shadowing shifts and then my actual actual shifts very, very soon. So yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to touch on for my experience being in the nursing program from the very beginning to the very end. And that's all the questions that I have from you guys through Instagram. I feel like this was definitely a long one. If you guys have enjoyed this video, if you've watched the whole thing, I really hope that it answered some of your guys' questions, whether you've been thinking about going into nursing, or if you're going through nursing school right now, or even if you're a baby nurse or an experienced nurse. I hope you know, you still enjoyed this video. I hope it answered some questions. I hope the whole process from the very beginning to the very end made sense to you guys. Of course, if you have any more like comments, questions, concerns, you can definitely leave those down in the comments down below. Or you can even, you know, DM me on Instagram. Like I said, my Instagram is just my name, Brooke Strang, but I also have it down in the description box, so you can get like the spelling and all of that sort of stuff. So you can go ahead and search me on Instagram, give me a follow, and you can message me any questions that you may have. So yeah, once again, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, that's all that I have for this video. So I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, everyone.